Hello and welcome back to Ollie Talks Airsoft. In today's video we are talking about the Chiappa Rhino. So this is a pretty cool gun. It is right here. It's an absolute beast. Oh my goodness. So what I think we should do is, first off, let's talk about the externals of this gun, like what's different about this to kind of all the other revolvers that I've got. What's most obvious about this particular hand cannon is how absolutely ginormous it is. And to me, the most obvious thing is here is the barrel instead of being up here. Your height over bore on this is ridiculous. It's like 1.5 inches. So yeah, absolutely insane. This is also probably most obviously a 6-shooter. This has moon clips. Now, this makes loading the gun so much quicker. There's nothing in it. Yeah, this is a pretty cool thing, to be honest. So, in this box, I've actually got another Chiappa Rhino. So this one is someone's pride and joy. So let's show this one off, but when it comes to the shooting, we're just going to use this other one that I've got here. So this guy has got a couple of packs of shells, and I'll show you why I don't really like using the shells too much in a moment. But this guy has gone for the charging Rhino. Look at that. So it's basically got some slightly different grips on it. So you've got this kind of grey coloured grip, still plastic, still houses the CO2 in the bottom, but it has all these silver accents on it, and it also has some fibre optic sights which are also adjustable, which is pretty cool. On the standard you just have adjustable blacked out sights, so nothing particularly special about those. Hopefully you can get an idea there of what they look like. Whereas with the bit more expensive and slightly upgraded, you get a bit of a nicer sight picture, to be honest. I don't know whether these are real fibre optic or not, but either way they seem to pick up the light nicely, especially these back ones. They're nice and light. I do like the lighter colours. They do tend to, like, if it's a little bit darker, those lighter colours pick up really nicely. However, with that kind of height over bore, it's yeah, you're gonna struggle. So the way that this gun works is, first you would have to pull down on this cylinder release here at the side, just gently, and the cylinder will push in from the other side. It pops out. So on the cylinder, you'll notice there's this rod here. If you press it, that's what you use to actually eject your shells. So if you put your shells inside, if I press this, you'll notice it forces them out. What you would do at this point is you would close the cylinder and roll your hand up a little bit, and what that will do is that will set the gun so it's going to be ready to fire. This gun works on single and double action, so what that means is you can either pull the hammer back and pull the trigger, or you can just pull the trigger and it will rotate the cylinder. So rather than doing it on this guy's nice gun here, I mean obviously it's pretty loud, pretty cool, but we're going to use this one for the demo purposes. So let's have a quick look at the markings that you get on it. So it's pretty cool. It's got the Chiappa Rhino, like 50 DS, and then 357 Magnum on it, which is cool. On the other side, it does unfortunately say 6mm Airsoft. Bit of a shame. When you take the grips off, it actually does say on the bottom, made in Taiwan. Whereas I think that the parts are made in Taiwan, whereas it may actually be assembled by Chiappa in Chiappa Firearms in Italy, which is pretty cool. It adds a little bit of kind of prestige to this gun, but there are a few things on here that are a little bit different, and there's a couple of things that I'm not like crazy on. So yeah, once you basically put your shells in, you can either pull it back, let go, and Because the hammer basically flicks forward every time, you actually have a cocking indicator at the back here. But if you use a gun enough, you will know by the feeling of the trigger, like the positioning of the trigger, as to whether the gun is cocked or not. You can actually also decock it, and if I do that, you'll notice the trigger will sit in a much further forward position. Now, probably my biggest gripe with this particular gun is the trigger pull. It's actually, I think it's pretty close to what a real revolver's trigger pull would be. So it's about 11.8 pounds when using it on double action. So that's the nicest way to shoot it. Weirdly, if you put it onto single action, much harder to pull. It's actually somewhere closer to 15.5 pounds. It actually went too high for my trigger gauge to actually read. Mine stops, I think, 12 or 13 pounds, but I found someone else that had done a trigger pull test on it with a gauge that could go even higher, and it went up to 15.5 pounds on single action. That's weird. You would expect a single action to be a much lighter trigger pull because you've already pulled the hammer back and done all of that work. Actually releasing it from the sear is quite difficult on this, but that's the reason that you do have the cocking indicator. But as I said, to be honest, I would always be running this as a double action, because at least then you can get some shots off relatively quickly. The biggest problem with this gun, obviously, is the fact that you have a 6-round capacity, and if you are using individual shells, then it can be a real pain. And I'm going to show you one of the malfunctions that a lot of people get when they do run individual shells. The only thing I will say for running individual shells, though, is it's really cool. There's nothing quite like loading a revolver with individual shells. It's really fun. The problem is, once you've fired all of your shots off, you will either take it and extract all of the shells and they will come out fine, but every so often, if you don't do it right or in the heat of battle, you can actually press the ejector, and you can sometimes get a shell that does that and it gets caught behind. That means that you can no longer close the cylinder, so you have to try and then get that shell out. I've seen this happen to a few people in game. It's clearly something that, you know, it's clearly something that happens. It is annoying. It's not unfixable. Also, you'll notice here it's sitting flush, which means it'll close. If you push this out too far, it can actually twist slightly to the side, and it'll mean that it no longer resets. It can sit like this, and obviously all you need to do is just flick it round and it will go back in. I mentioned before that obviously the cylinder actually feeds from the bottom, unlike the top, which is what you would expect with most. This piece here, which ensures that you get a good air seal, is actually also your hop-up adjustment. On a revolver like this, hop-up is of limited use. It's nice to have it, but ultimately you've got a BB that's being held in a shell, and it's going to have air or CO2 fired behind it through this shell. It's going to exit this shell, go into the barrel here, get hit by the hop-up, spin, and then go out of the barrel. There are so many points of contact there. Normally the BB would go straight up into the hop-up and then be fired out. With this, it's kind of bouncing around all of its way through. This is one of the reasons that any kind of revolver that takes a shell like this is just inherently going to be a little bit inaccurate. Like, you can't expect to be hitting the same kind of ranges that you would hit with like your normal sidearm. But what I would say is the fact that they do things like this, these appear to be, anyway, 3D printed polymer shells that can go in. That's great. The fact that you can then have a pocket full of these, it's still considerably more admin than you would ever get from using just a normal pistol with like 25, 30 round mags. You can drop one out, put it in. In order to get like 25 or even 24 rounds out of this, you're going to need 4 of these, you're going to need somewhere to put them. But can it be used in game? Well, with some practice, yes. You're not going to be the most effective person on the field using one of these, but can you do some damage with it? Yeah, of course you can. You know, people go out and get kill streaks with rubber knives. At least you've got something that actually shoots something. So I'll put up a bit of testing that I did, shooting from something like 4.5 meters away. Didn't get the most spectacular grouping, but it's okay, you know. You could definitely, if you're running this in CQB, it'll work, you know. You will be able to get some kills with it, but you've just got to kind of get down on that reload, know how to do it, and have some kind of system. I know that, you know, if you look at someone like Jerry Michalek, he is obviously a world famous and record holding revolver shooter, and he runs, you know, bullets in moon clips, and his reloads are unbelievably fast. Obviously he's got he's taken the time to bevel all of these edges so that he can actually get the shells in that much quicker. But as far as reloading and unloading, if you're going to want to use this in game, moon clips that's what you need. Or for me personally, I think the idea of having these shells is just absolutely brilliant. So what we should probably do now is actually just run it through the Chrono. I've just put CO2 in this. I've probably fired maybe a dozen shots just to make sure that it's all working and everything. So let's get some BBs, get some iPro on, and see how this thing's going to perform. Chrono on. So I've got 2 moon clips here and also 6 shells. I've got the gun with an empty cylinder. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out what the results are, but when it comes to reload, let's see what the speed difference is between reloading a moon clip and reloading individual shells, and let's also see if we get an FPS difference with these 3D printed shells versus the moon clip on the actual kind of OEM ones. So okay, right, so I'll start with just the 3D printed, and let's see how they do. So it's 148 FPS. Ooh. Timeout, that was. Timeout. Timeout. 211. 190. Okay, right. Let's now reload the moon clip. Okay, that was 319 with these different shells. 252, 224, 176, 265. That's 88. Maybe I hit the side on that one. Okay, right, that should all be out. Now let's try and reload these individual shells. Okay, 287, 175, 153, 122, 271, 288, and we are out. Okay, and then yeah, you get all the individual shells going all over the place. Right, so some pretty big FPS fluctuations there, to be perfectly honest with you. So I was trying to account for height over bore. I think I might have hit it a couple of times there, but actually it was still relatively inconsistent. I think looking back, maybe these were slightly more inconsistent, so maybe I should take back what I said about the shells. But ultimately, if you're going to be shooting someone at very much CQB distances, then you should still be able to hit them with this. Let's talk about a couple of the other features of this particular gun. It does actually have a safety, which will lock out a hammer, and it also completely locks out the trigger here. You will also notice that the thing, especially when it's got nothing in it, it's like a bicycle bell. That's what it kind of sounds like. It's nice that it's like that it's all metallic sounding. Obviously this is like a full metal pistol with the exception of these plastic grips. You've got a metal hexagonal cylinder. Now this is something so that it makes it easier to fit into a holster, but you can still have that like 357 Magnum firepower. But the main feature of this on the real firearm is you'll probably notice that the cutout where the kind of webbing of your hand goes is completely in line with the axis, with the bore axis here. Now the whole point of this particular gun was that you could be firing a hefty 357 cartridge and you wouldn't get the same kind of muzzle flip. Now, after actually sitting and watching Jerry Miculek's video all about it, he did say that it's kind of weird, and one of the things that, if you guys are really into your revolvers and stuff like that, then you may still have kind of a traditional like pistol grip where your thumbs will be pointing forwards like mine are here. Now what he did, because this fires from the bottom, so from the bottom of the cylinder rather than the top, he said he like really burnt his thumb. So if you guys out there that are running one of these want to look like you know what you're doing, or maybe you're using it for training purposes, then you really want to watch what this thumb on your offhand, on your sort of support hand, is doing. Because if it goes forward like that and you're shooting a 357 cartridge, it's going to like, yeah, blow the end of your thumb off. So if you're using this for training, don't get into bad habits of using it like this. Make sure that you're, you know, you've got a different pistol grip, that you're tucking your thumbs in, that find something that works for you, but just be really careful, because this Rhino, like the Rhinos in real life, it can hurt you. Back to the kind of Airsoft replica. Obviously you've got these massive cutout here. That's in order to reduce weight. That's obviously a feature that carries from the real gun over to the Airsoft one. It is very heavy. Let me just get my scales. So with CO2 in it and no shells, what are we coming in at? 1 kilogram and 69 grams, 2 pounds 5 ounces. Yeah, this kind of feel, it's like the Desert Eagle of revolvers, unless you're going to look at something like one of the like, what is it, the artillery single actions, which are like absolute beasts. Well, what are my final thoughts on this Chiappa Rhino? Well, I've got an ASG revolver, and it's, again, it takes shells a bit like this, and it's probably my least favourite gun. And this one, on the other hand, it does have a little bit of charm to it. The fact that you if you get the limited edition or one of the special edition ones like the Charging Rhino or the gold one, then you get one of these really nice boxes with it. I do like it when companies make a bit of an effort in their packaging, and you can see inside here we've actually got a couple of tools. So we've got a tool here which is for adjusting the hop up. We've got a safety part that goes in here. So in there you also get a manual which it tells you basically the basic functions of the gun, how to shoot it. You've got a target there, and also my favourite feature, you do have an exploded parts diagram. I really love it when manufacturers do put in an exploded parts diagram. It makes a huge difference if you're going to try and work on the gun. You also get a cool sticker and a really cool patch, actually. Hopefully you can see that. I think that's pretty cool. The fact that they give you all of these bits in the box is great. So ultimately, who is this gun for? Well, in reality, it's either for people that are massive fans of revolvers and they think that this just looks really cool, or it's for, you know what, it's for new players and it's for experienced players. It's for new players that go, I love the look of that, I think it looks awesome. And you know what, I often get asked, like, what's the best first gun? The best first gun is the one that you really like the look of and that you are going to have an absolute blast playing with. This, for some people, is that gun. And it doesn't really matter that it's not supremely accurate. It doesn't really matter that it's not really practical, that it's hard to find a holster for it. You know, it's just cool, and some people are going to want to use this. I do actually have a holster solution for anyone that's wondering, because it has a rail on the bottom. It means that it can take a light like this. If I use my battle belt here, we have actually got it. I know that this is obviously the one that's made for a suppressor, but I do actually run it a lot of the time with unsuppressed, and yeah, there you go. This is obviously this is the T-Rex arms, and I've got it on a Safariland. So you know what, that does look kind of badass, doesn't it? Like, yeah. The only problem is that's cheap. Let's try with a real Surefire. So here we go. Right. If you're looking to get a Surefire, a real one, I would say always get the B. The B is the one that you want, because you've got this thumb screw. It means that when you put it on any kind of Picatinny rail, you can always get a nice secure fit. Most of the Airsoft ones are not. There you go. Much more secure. Yeah, a lot of these Airsoft ones are the A-type fitting, not as good. Take a little bit of practice. I've got this on a UBL mid-ride, because of the size of it. I'd probably put it on a low ride, run it a little bit further down, so I'm used to coming about here in order to grab my pistol grip. So that's a training need, and this is what I mean, you know, you're gonna have to put in the time. Could this be used? I mean, on a real gun, like, that's obviously a dangerous place to be reaching forward, but say you were going to turn it on permanently and just leave it on, then yeah, you could definitely do this, and this is a pretty cool holster solution. So right, let me just put this down and reset. Yeah, so bit different with the Surefire on it. Absolute beast, so much fun. So yeah, final thoughts. If you really like the look of this, then nothing's going to stop you from buying it. I would just say, don't expect to be going out getting ridiculous kill streaks with this. If you want to do that, then you're going to have to practice a lot. You're reloading, and I would say getting these moon clips or getting some 3D printed moon clips is probably going to be a really good idea. It is going to make you more competitive, but you're still not going to be very competitive with this, to be perfectly honest. It's more just fun. It's a cool thing to have when your friends come round. The last thing I'll probably point out on this is you do get some wobble on the entire gun. So there's a bit of wobble, which hopefully you'll be able to see as you've got this seam line down here. So there is some play obviously in the front end. Like it's quite well put together, but yeah, for a firearms company that are kind of coming into airsoft or wanting to put their kind of replicas of their real steel products, because this is officially licensed, you probably want them to, there's maybe a couple of things that they might have, if they'd known a bit more about airsoft, that they might have chosen to do. But nevertheless, this is a really fun gun, and if anyone that wants to get it, yeah, don't let me stop you. It is, I do think it is a little bit overpriced. I think for that kind of money, for like £150 or so, you are expecting kind of like premium performance, and you're not really going to get that, but you are going to get a lot of fun and a lot of satisfaction out of it. If nothing else, just sitting in front of the TV, loading in the shells. And it also sounds great as well. It's really kind of like loud and beefy. So there are a few things about it that I do really like. Will I be adding one to my personal collection? No, I won't. But I was really pleased to get to have a look at this one, and thank you to the person that sent this in. So yeah, so that I could bring it to you. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this, even though I'm talking about something which I'm not really that keen on. It is still airsoft, so I do still love it. For me, the beauty of some of the like Tanaka pistols, I think maybe I've been spoiled over the years. If we're talking, so full metal shell ejecting plastic grips, plastic with some metal wooden grips, but just listen to this. Freaking love this thing. Yeah, and that trigger pull on it, like, it almost looks like it's smoking. That's so cool. Awesome, absolutely. This is kind of my bag. There's more about this particular gun on my channel, so feel free to like look that up if you're interested. But this has been obviously my little look at someone else's Chiappa Rhino. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Would you actually take this out? Is it something that you field? Have you fielded it before? Like, have you got a kill streak? I would imagine that getting a kill streak with this, especially with reloads in between, is probably one of the most satisfying kill streaks that you could get in airsoft, topped probably only by a knife kill streak. So yeah, let me know if you've done it before. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, guys. Thanks for taking this look at the Chiappa Rhino, and I will see you guys hopefully on the next video. Take care.